Welcome back to Ask a Creationist. My name's Todd Wood. I'm president of Core Academy of Science. I am a young earth creationist, and I am here to answer your questions. So this is an ongoing series that we've been doing here. We started off during the COVID-19 quarantine, and we're probably going to keep doing it. Here's a great question for this time, and I hope you enjoy this. The question is one I get a lot. Are you stupid or something? Usually this question is accompanied by more statements like, I mean, seriously, creationists know jack about science. They hate science. They make their mission in life to destroy science. Science that's as plain as the nose on your face. One thing I can guarantee, if you ask a creationist anything about science, the answer will be wrong. So seriously, are you stupid or something? Yeah, I get this question a lot. It's just sort of everyone's natural assumption because I, have issues with conclusions of evolutionary science that I must therefore be a complete moron. I deny reality, I hate science, and so forth. It is not usually one that I bother answering, mostly because it's not worth answering, usually. Now, I will just say, for the record, no, I am not stupid, but thanks for asking. Now, if I was a regular creationist, or, most creationists, let's just put it that way, most creationists would answer this with a rather long discussion about why the question is incorrect. They would treat it as a real question, and they would try to tell you about all the creationists who are really good scientists and doing really good work and contributing to the field, or in the past have contributed to their field. And this is a perfectly, in my opinion, valid response, and it's a biblical response. Proverbs tells us to answer a scoffer so that the simple may grow wise, right? And it's not because you're answering the scoffer, it's because there are people out there who might think that the scoffer has something important to say. And so sometimes it's important to answer the scoffer in their scoffing. But I'm more interested in the phenomenon of dehumanization. This is an idea, a concept that I came across a couple of years ago, talking to an anthropologist about my work. She is not a creationist, but she mentioned to me some of the reasons that you're having these problems are dehumanization. And she just sort of casually described some of the research on dehumanization to me, which left my jaw hanging open. I could hardly believe it. So I began to do some research. And here's the basic idea of dehumanization. Here you are as a person, and there's two types of people in your circles, right? There are people who are in your in-group, and the in-group can be defined in any way you can imagine, based on, say, whether you like the president or not, or based on whether you like the new Star Wars movies or not. It can be important, it can be completely irrelevant, trivial. And then everyone else is the out-group, okay? Now, dehumanization takes place when you subconsciously look at members of the out-group as something less than human. It doesn't have to be anything that you purposely, intentionally think in your head, that guy is a total moron, although you may think that. It is, in fact, just a knee-jerk, natural reaction that people have. And dehumanization is subject to social science research, psychology, and that sort of thing. And it's really one of the most fascinating things that I've run across. And it really makes sort of the root or the heart of things like bigotry, racism, sexism, and eventually genocide. If you continue and persist and insist that dehumanization is the right way to treat the out-group, yeah, that can lead to very, very bad things. But let me describe one of these things so you don't have to take my word for it, because I'm a creationist, and what do I know about stuff? I'm stupid or something. So here's a paper that was published in the journal Group Processes and Intergroup Relations about a decade ago by a group of researchers from northern Italy. And they did a really cool project. They took photographs of a human face and a chimpanzee face. And they wanted to know, if you show these photographs to some people, will they be able to recognize this is human and that is not human? Well, that seems trivial, right? But they also took a computer program and they blended them. So they ended up with what in the original research article was a series of photographs that were part human, part chimpanzee, that were morphed together using special effects morphing technology, right? So the question they ask people then is a very simple thing. Classify this as human or not, right? Is it human? And they weren't given another choice. You had to say it's human or it's not human. So if you just show these pictures to a bunch of people, and you don't tell them anything about what the pictures are, you just ask them, is this human? Then, gratifyingly enough, 100% will recognize the human face and say, yes, that is a human face. And nobody will look at the chimpanzee and say, that is human. Nobody will say that. They all recognize that's a chimpanzee. But what about the morphed faces? The faces that are literally half chimpanzee, half human, made in a computer. Well, if you don't tell them anything about the faces, then suddenly you get the split. They're forced to choose either human or ape. They can't say it's half and half, so they have to pick one, and they pick, half the people pick human, half the people pick chimpanzee. Well, that makes sense. And remember, this research is happening in northern Italy, so if you tell them that these are photographs of faces of people from northern Italy, well, 100% will recognize the totally human face as human. Nobody will say that the chimpanzee face is human. But on the half and half face, suddenly only 34% are willing to say that that's human. They're more likely to say that's not human because it's a part of their own in-group, right? They recognize, they're careful to guard who is allowed in their in-group and who is not. If you look too apish, then you're not part of the in-group. But what if you tell them it's actually photographs of faces of the out-group? And in this case, not just any out-group, but people from southern Italy, which to the rest of the world seems like a trivial distinction. Northern Italy versus southern Italy. What's the difference, right? And I'm sure Italians would tell you, oh, there's lots of differences. Well, yeah, they definitely would. And again, they all properly classified the fully human and fully chimpanzee photographs. But this time, 60% of the people were willing to say that half human, half chimpanzee face was a picture of someone from southern Italy. Totally different. Twice as many said that was a southern Italian as they said that was a northern Italian when they were from northern Italy. So if you are looking at the out-group versus the in-group, you're much more willing to say the out-group people look like monkeys, look like apes, look like chimpanzees than the in-group people. And again, don't take my word for it. That's the last thing I want you to do. I want you to look it up and see for yourself. And if you think that's really interesting, you might even think this is interesting. So this book, co-wrote this book with Daryl Falk. This is what happens when you get an evolutionist and a creationist together and you try to go beyond the simple knee-jerk reactions of dehumanization and try to get to the point where we recognize the humanity in the other person. And I think that this is a really important thing to remember as you think about how you interact on social media and how you interact on the internet, right? You're seeing communication that has been essentially stripped of a lot of nuance. All the nonverbal stuff, all the gestures, all the facial expressions, the tone of voice is missing. All you have are these bare words. And it is so easy for us to say, what is wrong with this person? How could he say something like that? And immediately put them in the out group and begin to dehumanize them. And it's not even something that we think consciously about. It's not something that we recognize that we're doing. So we need to be aware. We need to be aware of that process, and we need to beware of that process and not participate and do what we can to avoid it. Now, some of you watching this might still be thinking, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All of this is irrelevant because I can show how stupid you are. Because I've got the documentation, I can show all the errors that creationists have made and all sorts of other things. Cool. That's great. That's a question for another time. So if you've enjoyed this video, check out our website. Please give a like, subscribe if you like, click the bell to get notifications, whatever you do. If you go to our website, you'll find links to our social media accounts. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We'd love to connect with you, learn more about your perspectives on things, and thank you for watching.